Mabuhay! Ako po ang inyong lingkod, Zeus Paredes. Welcome to my studio and my YouTube channel. Pinamagatang Old School by Zeus. Today, I wish to share more information about my grandfather. Because I believe knowing more about my grandfather, you know more about me and my art. Sino nga ba si Gregorio Melchor Paredes? Who is Gregorio Melchor Paredes? Ang sagot, edi ang lolo ko. Now, he is my greatest inspiration at influence since I was a child. I've known more about him through my dad and stories from my older cousins. And because this is old school, I'd like to throw you back in time about 124 years ago, or 1903. Let's talk about the Pensionado Act of 1903. The act was passed on August 26, 1903 by then Governor General William Howard Taft. The Pensionado Act, or Act number 845, refers to the law which allowed qualified Filipino students aged of 16 to 21 to be given a chance to acquire college education here in the United States. The idea of the program was to educate the students in the U.S. government system and have them mainly earn degrees in government and administrations, so that upon their return to the Philippines, they would administer the government in the same fashion. The act required school division superintendents to hold exams to identify qualifying students. So in the first year, there was about 20,000 applicants from all over the Philippines, but only 103 were selected. That's about 0.005%. Lolo Gregorio was one of them. Wow, galing ng idol ko ha. So, for those of you who want more information about this, I will post the list, a link for the list of the first batch of pensionados, as well as a copy of the document of the Act of 1903. So, on October 9, 1903, a big crowd in Manila gathered with bands and all the fanfare to send them off as they boarded the ship that will take them to the United States. It was going to be a 30-day voyage across the Pacific. Initially, they boarded the Japanese ship SS Rohila Baru, which brought them from Manila to Hong Kong. That's the first leg. Second leg, they transferred to SS Korea to the United States upon the supervision of Dr. Alexander Sutherland. In brief, as to what they did during this 30-day voyage or month-long voyage, here's an excerpt from Dr. William Alexander Sutherland. It is in one of his report, or part of his report. The pensionados then, between the time of their arrival in Manila and the date of sailing, as also during the 30-day voyage across the Pacific, were fully instructed by Dr. Sutherland as to their clothing, their personal habits and behavior, as well as lectures on customs and characteristics of the Americans were given daily. So that's an excerpt from the report of Dr. William Alexander Sutherland. So the ship arrived San Francisco on November 1903. The first year was spent in a prep or high school where the pensionados polished up their English and got acclimated with the American system. Lolo Gregorio chose to study in the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. And upon his return to the Philippines, he served as an insular teacher for 8 years, teaching drawing, and was a critique teacher of drawing in the Philippine Normal College. while doing architectural and drafting also at the same time at the Bureau of Public Works of the Philippines. He also taught in Mapua Institute of Technology and Philippine Women's College. Now, the other pensionados that I'd like to mention in this program is Juan Arellano, Don Tomas Mapua, and Conrado Benitez. And what is their relevance in our topic today? Sa ating paksa, Lolo Gregorio would lay their partner with all these three men. So, Arellano, also a graduate in Pennsylvania, and I believe in as well as extended study in New York. He built the Manila Central Post Office, which is a considered one of Arellano's magnum opus or greatest work. He worked hand in hand with Tomas Mapua and Lolo Gregorio. Tomas Mapua got his education in Cornell University in New York and was the first registered architect of the Philippines. He also founded the Mapua Institute of Technology. And Lolo Gregorio was one of the founding professors of that school. For his part and involvement in the Manila Post Office, Lolo Gregorio was doing all the architectural and ornamental appliques and details. He also, I believe, did a lot of drawings and drafting for the same building. And the Manila Central Post Office was done in neoclassical architectural styles. So, what are the other works that they did? Most of the government buildings, like the Manila Supreme Court and we now call, I think, the National Museum or the Philippine Congress then, these were built together by architect Arellano and Tomas Mapua together with Lolo Gregorio. They also did the iconic Metropolitan Theater in Manila. It's done in a Art Deco style, and Lolo Gregorio closely worked with an Italian sculptor, Francesco Riccardo Monti. This architect Arellano met him in New York while he was studying in New York. So with architect Monti, he worked hand in hand with Lolo doing the sculptures and details for the Metropolitan Museum. So, if as a footnote, it's worthwhile mentioning that Monti also did the sculptures on top of the main building of the University of Santo Tomas. Finally, let's talk about Lolo Gregorio and Conrado Benitez. Conrado Benitez is an educator and constitutionalist. He was part of the part of the team that drafted the 1935 Constitution of the Philippines. Conrado Benitez was married to Lolo Gregorio's cousin, Francisca Paredes Tirona. Conrado Benitez and Francisca Tirona commissioned Lolo Gregorio to be architect and designer of their home in San Juan, which is now part of Quezon City. This would become one of Lolo's iconic architectural work. Prior to the American colonization, the architectural profession was essentially embodied by the maestro de obra, literally translates to master builder. There was no architectural title of architect back then. Instead, the maestro de obra was responsible for the design, construction and supervision, and erection of public and private structures. So, the mansion was built in the style of Italian Renaissance. It's now called Miranila. I would also put a link to Miranila so you would see the details and the architecture of that building. It was built in 1929, sitting on one of the highest point of the old town of San Juan del Monte, and was acknowledged now as a historical house by the National Historical Commission in 2011. So Gregorio has been an inspiration to the family and the clan. I would say that from all the stories that I heard from my dad and my cousins, there were times when I hesitated to give more information because all of them were based on stories. So, about 3-4 years ago, I started an extensive research as to the documents, and I started with the Pensionado Act, which I literally was surprised to see his name listed. So now, with the evidence and the documents that I have, I'm quite confident bring this to you. And looking at the past, his influence until now has brought about leaps and bounds of encouragement for me to do more, and probably not as great as he is. I doubt if I would pass a qualifying exam of 20,000 applicants. So for our next video, I would be featuring one of my work, Hoolied Up, and then after that, I would follow up with a video of my dad, or my greatest mentor, Architect Achilles C. Paredes. So moving on, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my old school channel, Old School by Zeus. I also would like to hear your comments and suggestions, and also push that like button. So follow me up, and I have lined up a great number of materials for you. This is just the introductory, and most of them would be covering my works and discussing them. And like I said in my first video, there will be case studies of some of my projects, as well as stories of the old past, and also instructional materials on arts, drawings, art materials, crafts, and some of my other things that I do in my studio. So, yan, mabuhay kayong lahat, and hopefully to see you in my next video.